So boys and girls, for the past few weeks, we have been focusing on different comprehension strategies that can help us understand better what we are reading. Now today, we are going to be looking at a different comprehension strategy called visualization. Now when we visualize, we are going to be creating mental pictures of what we are reading inside of our head. It's kind of like we're going to be turning the book into a movie inside of our own head. Now our authors, or the people who write our books, can help us visualize by using words that help us to use our 5 senses. Now when our senses are engaged, we can better picture what is going on in the story. So as we read today, I'm going to be documenting the words that help to engage our senses. These words will either help us to see, to feel, to hear, to taste, or to smell what is going on in our book and help us to visualize or picture that inside of our heads. So today, the book that we are going to be reading is entitled Hedgie's Surprise, and our author is Jan Brett. Hedgie's Surprise by Jan Brett. Once there was a speckled hen who had laid an egg every day, only to have it taken by a little tomtin every morning. It all started because the tomtin got tired of porridge for breakfast. Each morning, the rooster crowed as the sun came up, and Henny knew the tomtin was on his way. So did the little hedgehog who lived nearby. The tomtin always called out to her, "Henny, have you got a little yummy for my hungry, hungry tummy?" So our author tells us that the rooster crowed. I know from my background knowledge that when a rooster crows, that's the noise the rooster makes when he's trying to wake everyone up in the morning. Since I know that that's the sound that the rooster makes, I can hear the rooster crowing. Since I can hear him crowing, I can picture him inside my head waking everyone up early in the morning. The tomtin climbed into the henhouse, took Henny's warm, smooth egg, and ran off to cook it in his little kettle, sprinkle it with salt, and gobble it down. Then he fell fast asleep in the hayloft until evening. I love how our author uses the word gobble. When I think of the word gobble, I hear the sound that a turkey would make when he goes gobble, gobble, gobble. And it makes me think about hearing the tomtin gobbling up the egg. When I hear him gobbling, I picture him in my mind eating his egg really fast and really loudly. Henny didn't like the tomtin taking her eggs, but she put up with it until one morning when she saw Goosey Goosey sail forth, smiling and bowing, with a stream of piping gooselings following her. "Oh my," Henny clucked, "where did all those little ones come from?" "My eggs are hatching," crooned Goosey Goosey. "Here comes the last one now." From that moment on, Henny wanted a brood of peeping chicks of her own, but how could she stop the tomtin from taking her egg? The next morning, when the tomkin poked his head in, Henny tried. She clucked loudly and pecked. She flew at him, but nothing stopped that hungry tomtin from taking her egg again. Poor Henny. "No eggs, no chicks, no peeping babies," Henny wailed so loudly that she woke up the little hedgehog, her tears pouring down on top of him. "Puffy, puffy, stick, stick," Hedgie went as he crawled out to talk to her. "Poor Henny, I've been watching the tomtin take your eggs. I'll help you trick him into stopping." Now I love how our author tells us that the tears were pouring down Henny's face. I can see in my head the tears falling and pouring down Henny's face. And And since I can see the tears pouring out of Henny's eyes, I can picture in my head how sad Henny must be that the tomten keeps taking her eggs. The next morning, when the rooster crowed, there was the tomten. "Henny, have you got a little yummy for my nearly empty tummy?" Henny and Hedgie were ready. The tomten reached for an egg and pulled out an acorn. Said the tomten. "What's this?" And off he went to try it. The acorn was tasty, but it didn't fill him up, and he awoke in the middle of the afternoon grumpy. The next time the tomten arrived looking for an egg, he found a bright red strawberry. It looked bigger than the acorn, so he ran off to cook it. The strawberry was jammy and sweet, but it only filled up the tomten a little more than the acorn had, and he woke up early. Now our author tells us that the tomten ate a strawberry. Just thinking about how sweet strawberries are engages my sense of taste. So I can taste how yummy that strawberry must have been. And so since I can taste the strawberry, I can imagine in my head the tomten eating the strawberry and how much he must have enjoyed it, because I love to eat strawberries. The sun had just came up when the tomten was at the hen house again, his stomach roaring with hunger. Pushing Henny aside, he grabbed for an egg, only to find a delicious smelling mushroom. He raced off to cook it, and as scrumptious as it was, he woke up with his little tummy growling for more. So our author tells us again that the tomten can smell the mushroom. The author is engaging my sense of smell, and I can imagine that delicious mushroom that the tomten was smelling and ended up eating. Since I can smell the mushroom, I can picture the tomten eating the mushroom and enjoying it, even though it didn't fill him up very much. "Cock-a-doodle!" The tomten rushed in, even before the rooster finished crowing. "Henny, have you got something for my hollow tummy?" This time he found a smooth, round potato, even bigger than an egg. He cooked it quickly, swallowed it down, and went back to his hayloft. He woke up at sunset only half full. The tomten had had enough. "Henny," he shouted, "tomorrow I want an egg for breakfast and nothing else. If I don't find one, I'll eat you up instead." Henny was scared. The tomten had been tricked by an acorn, a strawberry, a mushroom, and a potato. How could they fool him again? "Don't worry, Henny," Hedgie told her. "Now it is time for my surprise." And he whispered in her ear. All night Henny waited on her nest and Hedgie on his. As soon as it began to get light, Hedgie gently covered his nest with straw and got ready for the surprise. Henny and Hedgie could hear that tomten's stomach rumbling like thunder a mile away. He burst into the hen house, pulled Henny aside, and grabbed. "Ow!" he howled. "Ow, ow!" Puff a stick. He had clutched Hedgie, all closed up in a tight round ball of needle-sharp prickles. Oh, I know from background knowledge that when you touch something very sharp, it hurts a lot. I can feel how painful it must have been for tomten to touch Hedgie like that. Since I can feel the sharp needles, I can imagine in my head how much that must have hurt tomten and how he might be running off and never coming back. Henny and Hedgie listened as the tomten ran home, yowling. "Thank you, Hedgie," Henny said, looking at her dear friend. "I'm sure that tomten won't be back here again for breakfast. But what I can't figure out is, where have you hidden my eggs?" Just then, Henny heard a little peep, then another, coming from Hedgie's nest. She looked over and saw the straw beginning to move. 5 baby chicks peeked out of their shells and fluffed up their down. As Henny settled down with her babies nestled around her, The Tauntaun's mother was in the hayloft making breakfast for her hungry Tauntaun. Now our author tells us that the baby chicks were peeking out of their shells. So I can see inside of my head the little baby chicks peeking out to see the world. So since I can see the chicks peeking out of their shells, I can picture in my head their little bodies coming out of their shells and how happy Henny must be that she now has baby chicks. Hedgie, 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 you are full of surprises, Henny cried as she led her baby chicks out into the sunshine. But the little Tauntaun didn't hear a word. He was sound asleep, his tummy full of tasty porridge. The end. So, boys and girls, as we have seen while we have been reading our story, that authors can use words that help us to visualize what we are reading by their use of words that help to engage our senses. So as we read today, we looked for words that helped us to use our senses. So we used our sense of sight and touch and hearing and taste and smell, and all of these words that engaged our senses helped us to create those mental pictures in our head about what was going on in our story today. So today, as you go into your independent reading, I want you to focus on finding words that engage your senses and helps you to visualize what is going on in the story.